Looking at Diego Pavia's stats, and after all the dust is settled, I think Diego Pavia is your Heisman.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making us your first listen. Thanks for making Locked On number one in the world. Now, on this episode, we're going to take a look at, recruiting happened this past weekend, the signing day, and most of Vanderbilt's signing class are early enrollees, so they're going to get involved in bowl practices. They're going to get valuable experience through there as they move through the offseason into spring practice and on into their first season as Vanderbilt football players. So that's a very good bonus for Vanderbilt making a New Year's Eve bowl against a quality opponent. They're going to get some valuable bowl practice work in there. Of course, Vanderbilt is going to the ReliaQuest Bowl versus Iowa, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, I want to talk about what Diego Pavia's Heisman chances are. I think he should be the front runner. I think you look at the stats, you look at everything, he should be the front runner. We'll get into all of that on this episode. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Shout out to the Everydayers Club. Make sure, click the link down in the bio and in the description, and make sure you check out what this Everydayers Club is all about. There's some really cool stuff, and if enough of you guys are interested, there is an all-access level to where you get a lot of great access and unique content. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, let's get into this, right? Because, okay, the good news is for Diego Pavia, I think statistically, and I think he's had enough great moments throughout the course of the season that I think there's a legitimate argument here that Diego Pavia should win the Heisman Trophy. And you look at Fernando Mendoza, and of course, okay, you can throw in he won the Big Ten title. He guided an Indiana team that I think coming into the season was not even an afterthought, was not even a mention in the college football playoff, let alone winning the Big Ten. That was pretty much Ohio State's to lose, and they lost. And of course, Fernando Mendoza had a huge part in that role. But also you look at what Vanderbilt has done with their season, 10-2 on the doorstep of the college football playoff, which if you want to know my opinion about that, just go watch the previous shows. But when you look at what Diego Pavia has done for this team, what he means to this team, story-wise, what he means in the leadership role-wise, what he's meant in all of these wins and how Vanderbilt has navigated their schedule, it's hard to overlook, right? It's hard to overlook. And the stats that he's put up, the dual threat that he's become, he threw for over 3,000 yards. He almost rushed for 1,000. He's accounted for nearly 40 touchdowns, and I'm going to throw up the stats here in just a minute. But like over the last 4 games, he has outperformed what Mendoza has done in the last 5. So let's go ahead and pull up the stats. All right. So you get a little stat comparison here. Vanderbilt football account has tweeted out this stat breakdown from a passing perspective. We'll throw in the rushing totals as well. Fernando Mendoza only has 69 rushing yards in the last 5 games. But you look at the numbers. On the right are the full season stats. On the left in the tweet is the last 4 games for Diego, the last 5 for Mendoza. That's including the game against Ohio State. For Diego, 75% passer, 1,494 yards. That is 12 touchdowns and a passer rating of 189.9. You want to talk about valuable. There you go. Mendoza, he is 69% passer for 1,057 yards. He is thrown for 9 touchdowns for 168.6 passer rating there, albeit very impressive numbers for a lot of quarterbacks. And I think in most years that's probably a runaway. What Mendoza has done is probably a runaway for the Heisman, but you got this guy, Diego Pavia, who's put up better numbers. And yeah, it's probably going to come down. Honestly, it's going to come down to the 2 losses. And that's unfortunate that's the, because again, Mendoza, Diego Pavia has outdueled Mendoza throughout the course of the season. If you want to look at stats, if you say this is a stats award, it just depends on what your goalpost is and what your criteria is as a voter. Some voters will vote stats all the way. Diego Pavia is going to have that right there. They're going to do story, which both of these teams were in the bottom of the cellar 2 years ago. Indiana was a basketball school, and I don't think they realized they had football. And Vanderbilt was also in the same boat where, they were just pitiful. They'd been pitiful for a long time. And for Vanderbilt, this is the most successful season in Vanderbilt history, and they're going to the ReliaQuest Bowl after winning 10 games for the first time ever. So, this is something that Diego had a lot to do with. But if you look at the season stats, Diego for the season is a 71% passer for 3,192 yards. He has a split of 27 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, rushing 152 carries for 826 and 9 touchdowns. And then that accounts for 4,000 total yards, accounting for 36 TDs for the Vanderbilt Commodores against the 22nd strength of schedule and number 11 in strength of record, which I think accounts for opponent's record against. So pretty good numbers, pretty good schedule to be doing that against an SEC schedule, going 10-2 and helping Vanderbilt get over the hump and finish in a lot of these games, except for Alabama and Texas. Mendoza, passing wise, he's 226 for 316, 72 yards. He accounts for 2,980 yards through the air, 33 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He makes up for his lack of rushing by throwing a lot of touchdowns, but he has 69 carries for 240 yards. He scored 6 times, and I think a lot of those, honestly, are goal line plunges, quarterback sneaks, things like that. But that's a total of 3,220 yards of total offense and 39 touchdowns. So he has the slight edge in touchdowns, but I think we're Diego Pavia, where you can make an argument if you're going to make this about statistics, the rushing component and just the overall added value he has in the rushing game, the overall value he adds that he's added in the passing game, and a big chunk of his yards have come over the last 4 games. So you can't say he loaded up his passing yards against Charleston Southern and Utah State and Georgia State in those games. Yes, he had big games, but he had over 400 yards passing in his last 3 games, and he had 300 something against Texas. He accounted for over 400 yards of total offense in his last 4, 500 against Kentucky. So these are SEC opponents that he's doing this against, and he's doing this against an Auburn defense that held Alabama to some pretty meager stats there. And this is, again, some pretty impressive performances against SEC quality opponents. So you just got to, if you're going to look at it numbers wise, that's what you got to look at. Now, obviously the impact, you can't argue with that. The impact is this: Fernando Mendoza won the Big Ten. Diego Pavia finished 6th in the SEC. And at 10-2 in the SEC, that's wild. How that shows you how good and strong this conference is. A 10-2 team is finishing in the 6 or 7 range. It's wild, right? Indiana goes 12-0 and wins the Big Ten. But you look at their strength of schedule, it's far less. So I don't it's going to come down to this. It's going to come down to what are the voters value more in this, and I really think it's going to be a tight race. And none of this is to detract away from Mendoza. I think Mendoza's had a phenomenal season. I think in most other seasons, he's a runaway. And I think the same with Diego. In a lot of seasons, most seasons, he's probably a runaway with those numbers and doing that, what he has done at Vanderbilt. And I think in a lot of seasons, Vanderbilt finishes 10-2 and represents one of the SEC spots in a 12-team playoff, right? I think Vanderbilt going 10-2 would have probably got them in last year's playoff. Perhaps I think there would have been some controversy, but they would have kind of snuck in a little bit there. But it's unbelievable how good the SEC is, and that's kind of what shows you. It kind of just shows you that right there. That Pavia had one of the best seasons ever for Vanderbilt in Vanderbilt history, probably one of the best seasons for a quarterback in the SEC. I don't know the full list, but it's got to be in there somewhere. And I'll get, as the week goes on, I'll pull that list of top SEC performances that won the Heisman. I'm gonna go back and look at Tebow's 2007 season where he won the Heisman, and because I think when you look at a quarterback like that, that's probably the most comparable, like a quarterback that, wins and losses didn't have as much impact as some of the other candidates, but was just so good on the field that you couldn't ignore it. I think when you look at Diego Pavia, you have to look at what Tebow did in 2007 and say, okay, well, they won the national championship the next year with Tebow, but in that 2007 season was probably his best season. He won the Heisman Trophy that year. So it's just unbelievable year. And I think, honestly, if Diego Pavia doesn't win it, I'll be disappointed, of course. I think he deserves it. I think he's earned it. But if it's anyone other than Fernando Mendoza, I would be shocked. If it was anybody other than Diego, if it's anybody other than Diego or Fernando, I would be highly shocked. But I think Fernando's done enough to win it. I could be comfortable with Diego finishing runner-up to him, but I just don't think statistically – I'm not ready to concede that yet because I think statistically he's better. The numbers show. I think the impact has been there against a tougher schedule for Diego. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get done and get into the playoff. I think if Vanderbilt could pull through against Texas or could have pulled through against Alabama, then he would have been a lock with these numbers. But it's going to come down to just kind of how the voters see stats versus impact versus season impact. And is it going to be best player on the best team, that type of thing. So it's good. There's a lot of factors, and I'm going to have Mike Heisman on. We're going to talk about this again and just kind of break down, just kind of get in the mind of what we think voters are going to be like. But it's going to be fun nonetheless. And I think the publicity is amazing. I think it's part of what Jared Curtis saw is like, okay, if he can do that, I'm better physically than he is, and I will be able to get started much quicker. So, I think that was a very attractive thing for Jared Curtis as far as picking this program to start at, because there's a lot of programs he probably could have started at right away if he left Georgia. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. Now, speaking of interesting, ReliaQuest Bowl versus Iowa. I don't love this matchup. I don't. But I think the more I dig into it, the more interesting it's going to be. And we'll talk about it next. All right, talking about game time. Because the World Cup is coming back to North America, and the first time since 1994 with 48 teams. It's crazy. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans the real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. And it's going to give you the real advantage this coming weekend for the college football playoff if you're going to go to any of that. But with Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup or any event realistic instead of impossible. So here's what happens. You pull up the app. The layout is so easy. You find your game, whatever game it is, you find it, you pick the seat, you tap a section, you have your tickets locked within minutes, no confusion, no hunting through the fine print. And what's great is as you're looking, you get to see your seat views as you do. So like you pick one section, you're like, I don't like that seat view, and you go to the next. And whatever price you see up front is the price that you get. No last second surprises at checkout. What you see is what you get. And man, it is awesome. Alerts for teams and matches and make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out on possible fun things. So again, take the guesswork out of buying tickets and out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, and event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make the account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thanks for making Locked On number one in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's all because of you. So, as bummed as we are that Vanderbilt didn't make the college football playoff, whatever we want to say, I hope we got it all out of our system. We have to move on. We just have to, okay? And change, I think, is inevitable. I think there needs to be a change to the system. Go back and listen to the clip I posted over the weekend about my proposal to change, what my change would be for the system and how to pick playoff teams and things like that. I think there's a lot of great ideas out there. And I think the ones we talked about with Mike and Steve are going to be, I think those are kind of the best options. Anyway, Vanderbilt has accepted the bid to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl versus the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, just on paper, this game looks like watching paint dry, honestly. But as you look at what this Iowa team brings, I think Iowa is underappreciated. And they're pretty good. They gave Oregon a run for their money. They're one of the better 8-4 teams out there. And I kind of really like the way this team is just, I like the way they play. They play with a lot of toughness. They obviously built well in the trenches. They got a bunch of NFL guys on the offensive line. Mark Gronowski was an FCS guy coming in. He only had this year for eligibility. He's been playing great. But it's going to be a really good matchup on New Year's Eve. And it's going to be a really good test for Vanderbilt to see kind of where they are up front, schematically where they are up front, maybe with some guys that are going to be coming back and things like that. So one question is who's going to be opting out. That hasn't been determined yet. We just accepted the bowl bid. So I'd be surprised if you saw Eli Stowers, but I would also not be surprised if you saw Eli Stowers. I think he's going to be a first rounder and certainly has no reason to play if he doesn't feel like he needs to. But then again, I think that he seems like a guy that would just want to play because that's what he wants to do. He wants to be there for his team. And Vanderbilt wants to make a statement. And this is a game that I feel like with Vanderbilt using that energy of being, I guess you could say, snubbed. I think this has a potential to have some of that energy there, and I think Vanderbilt could play at a very, very high level. So what you're going to see with Iowa and what the reason why I think, and Mike and I talked about this when this possibility first came out, that, you're going to see toughness-wise what you have. Because if you're wallowing in your feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, we didn't make the playoff, yada, yada, yada. We don't want to be here. That happened to South Carolina last year against a similar opponent, Illinois, who plays very similarly to how Iowa plays. That's just kind of quintessential Big Ten football. They just want to bulldoze you, punch you in the mouth, and win up front, defense, special teams, running the ball, things like that. But it's going to be one of those type games where if you don't come in focused, they're going to go. They're going to roll. And Mark Gronowski is a guy that can make you pay. This defensive line for Iowa is a group that can really, really make you pay as well. And so that's why I think this is a formidable opponent. And that's why I'm glad that, is there games that I wish they would have gotten? Yes, there is. There absolutely is. But, when you look at, when you look at different aspects of it, I think it's a really good look at what Vanderbilt is, and Vanderbilt's kind of a better version of that right now. But it's outstanding, and I think to get a Florida Bowl also is a pretty big deal for Vanderbilt because they don't usually get the Florida Bowl. When Vanderbilt becomes bowl eligible, the SEC is like, yeah, Music City, you're just going to go right. You're just going to stay in Nashville. and go right down the street. So it's good that Vanderbilt's going to get to travel and get to experience all the things you get to experience at the bowl games, with all the festivities and the different things from being on location. They get to go down to Florida and enjoy nice weather because it's in Tampa, and it's usually nice down there this time of year. My in-laws have a house not far from Tampa on the south side, and it's usually pretty nice this time of year. So this will be the first time that these two teams have faced off against each other. And this will be for Iowa, their 12th straight bowl game for Kirk Ferentz. And, they've had a pretty good season in their own right. So again, Vanderbilt brings in their Joe Moore Award finalist to play against the Hawkeyes. I think Vanderbilt top 10 offense nationally, second in the SEC. So if you're looking at it from an Iowa Hawkeye perspective, this may be a pretty bad matchup. And like I said, I'm going to break down Iowa more in depth as we go. We have plenty of time now. From now until New Year's Eve, we've got plenty of time to really get a good breakdown against Iowa. So right now, I'm just kind of giving you the initial reaction of, okay, what do I know about Iowa at this moment without having looked at them at all, and just knowing that they have Mark Gronowski. They're usually great on defense up front. They're great at special teams, and they have a cool stadium with a cool tradition in the fourth quarter. And they're a pretty consistent, hard-nosed, well-coached team with Kirk Ferentz. They're not exciting, they're not explosive, they're just good, and that's just kind of where they're at. So I'm very excited about this for the experience that Vanderbilt's going to get. I think I'm excited about this because of the extra practices with all the early enrollees coming in. Why does that matter? That's the golden question here, and I'm going to answer that next. The other golden question is, what do you do at the holidays? Because the holidays is all about feeding and gift giving, right? Two big goals: feeding people and finding gifts they'll actually love. And then then you can get both handled in one move. Buy Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. Because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you can stock up and save in a huge way, 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with code COLLEGE at checkout. And man, there's nothing more exciting than seeing that big styrofoam cooler show up on your doorstep, because when you open it, you're going to have some unbelievable cuts of meat, fillets, ribeyes, burgers, comfort meals. They have sides, desserts. My favorite sides is twice stuffed baked potatoes. They have apple turnovers. They have all kind of stuff. Like it's ridiculous. The steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. It's restaurant level quality at home. It's easy to gift, shows up frozen, packed beautifully, ready to cook. It's so clean. They come in these little boxes. They have instructions. They come with seasoning. I get this every year, and it's unbelievable. And if any of y'all out there want to send me one, feel free. But holiday magic made easy. Order by 6 p.m. Eastern time, and guess what? It ships the same day. It's crazy, man. Like, you can save big on gourmet gifts with more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code COLLEGE. All right, wrap it up here. Locked On Vandy. Thanks for making us number one as a network. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms if you want to follow along. But talking about the ReliaQuest Bowl, talking about what this means for Vanderbilt, because the question is this: you get left out of the playoffs, what's next, right? And that's an easy question, and that's an easy thing for Vanderbilt to get distracted about, because you see it happen every year with teams that get distracted. Like right before the year before the 12-team playoff kicked off, Florida State got left out of the 4-team playoff. They won their conference. They were sitting in that position where they could have gotten that number 4. Remember the controversy. Well, what happened was they were so wrapped up in being pissed that they got left out that they ended up getting demolished by Georgia 63-3. They got 60-pieced against Georgia, and they hadn't been the same since. Like, Georgia broke them, and they haven't recovered yet. And so Vanderbilt can avoid that type of situation by, because they could be all like, oh, we didn't make the playoff. Okay, it doesn't matter anymore. This bowl game, and I think that's the wrong way to look at it. So, and I think Vanderbilt is a more mature team that I think will look to the opposite way of, like, if they follow Diego's lead, I think they will look at this as, hey, this is a chance for us to prove that the committee got it wrong. This is a chance for us to make a statement. And I think they have that opportunity to, and they have that capability of, okay, well, we're just going to run it up on you a little bit. And their offense, the way they're playing, has every sort of capability to do so. And they're going to be in good weather, so it's going to be a little bit easier for them to do so. So it's going to be, over the next few weeks, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone opts out, which I'm pretty sure, obviously the people going into the transfer portal will opt out, I'm sure. So it's going to be interesting to see who enters the portal. This will be a chance for guys to, if they're going to enter the portal, or if they're thinking about entering the portal, I don't know if they opt out, or I don't know how it's going to work with the portal opening up January 2nd. And guys that want to get that last bit of film in, and they do a surprise, hey, I'm entering the portal on January 2nd. You could definitely see a lot of that. But, guys that are, the 45 guys that are leaving, how many of them want to play in the NFL? And that's an opportunity. If you're a guy that plays a lot and you're not sure what you're doing in the NFL, like, this is a good chance to get some NFL tape, to get one more game against a good opponent. Like, if you're an offensive lineman, if you're Jordan White, why not try to get yourself up into the first round by dominating a really high quality defensive front in Iowa? Why not do that? Why not, as Chase Mitchell and Bryce Henderson and those guys, why not put that one last statement out there saying, hey, we've got a Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. I think they deserve it. And they're putting out NFL tape. So it would be odd if a lot of these guys opted out, because with 45 guys leaving, like, this is your last chance to play college football. After that, you may never play football again, or you may go from 6th round to fourth round. Like, you never know. Like, if you play well, you could make that draft jump. And there's always the risk of playing poorly and going the other way in the draft, which is, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I just think it'd be interesting if guys opted out. Now, who this also benefits is the early enrollees. Now, they can't play in the game, but they can participate in the bowl prep, right? Because they will technically be enrolled. They will be allowed to practice with the team in bowl prep. So they're going to get a chance to learn the way of life, how things practice. And they're going to get to do a lot of this learning at a bowl site where there's nothing really else to do. Well, that's not true necessarily. The things that distract them are going to be fun things. It's not, they're trying to learn Vanderbilt football. They're trying to learn the scheme. They're trying to learn this, and they have to go to class for the first time. They're learning all this at a bowl site, which means they can be a little bit extra focused on it. And when they come back for off-season program, whatever day that is, which I think last year was January 7th, so it'll be some day similar. But they're a little bit more seasoned. And Vanderbilt only had 4 early enrollees last season. So it's a huge jump. You have at least 20, probably more. And those guys get to practice now. And those guys get a chance to get in the weight room, get acclimated academically before the season starts. And they get to really become college football players. So they're kind of like freshman plus, right? That's kind of what they're classified as. So I love this for them. Like, Jared Curtis is going to get a chance to work against this defense on the scout team. Now they're going to be running Iowa's plays. So there's probably going to be a lot of turning and handing the ball off, but he's going to get a lot of good work in 7-on-7 work, inside period, things like, he's going to get a lot of just getting acclimated with the team. and the other enrollees as well. Getting acclimated to the team and just getting involved in practice and just knowing the flow of what a Clark Lee practice looks like is going to be huge when it comes time to go spring, because these guys, it's, they're going to have to develop, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're going to have to develop, and a lot of these guys are going to be counted on, and that's just what it is. And so, it's good that these guys are getting an early jump on it. So, and bowl prep is going to do wonders in that regard. So, I'm very excited about this. The bowl game, I think the opponent, I was kind of hoping for. I saw a projection, Miami getting into the field of 12, kind of messed that projection up. But I saw a projection in the Gator Bowl with Vanderbilt versus Miami, and I thought that one would have been fun. If Notre Dame didn't decline their bowl bid, how awesome would it have been to get a bowl game against Notre Dame? That would have been clutch too. I don't know what they would have had to do to make that happen, but I guarantee that's something that was probably kicked around. That would have been a fun matchup as well. But nonetheless, you get Iowa. It's a test. It's a way to end your season, hopefully get that 11th win, and come out of here with an 11-win season with some great momentum for a much younger team that's going to need stuff like that. Mature teams don't necessarily need all of that, but younger teams do. And so that'll be a lot of fun. But that's all I got for you guys. Like I said, hope you guys have a great, we're setting up for hopefully a great week. And, like I said, thanks for tuning in to Locked On Vandy. We're going to talk more Heisman stuff with Mike, more bowl stuff. We're going to talk some basketball, all of that stuff. So make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Vandy so you get all the latest episodes. Catch the show at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Did Locked On Vandy make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayers Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social media platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayers Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to members-only Discord channel. So for those of you on video, we'll send you your first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. And until next time, anchor down. Peace.